Ding! This is your captain speaking, aka Captain Death, the host of the Lotsa Pasta podcast. I have a quick announcement to fucking make before we get into this episode here. I know this is random, I know this is out of nowhere, but so is my energy sometimes, and over this last weekend, I decided to make a Patreon account. I don't know why. I finally got over 5.5 years of stubbornness and decided that, hey, maybe the podcast can be self-sustainable from this point forward, and it would make making content a hell of a lot easier. I also made a coffee account for people who don't feel like signing up for a monthly subscription where you hand money to us repeatedly, and maybe you just want to throw money at us one time, whatever. I don't care. I'll accept anything at this point. Consider me a prostitute for your ear holes. There are 5 tiers of subscription services that you can sign up for on our Patreon, and they all have fun pasta-related names with fun little things that you get for each tier. The first tier, starting at $3, is just a basic support tier where you make sure that our content continues coming out, and it continues coming out the way it always has, which is ad and sponsor free. And then the tiers do kind of increase with vocal shout-outs, actual credits on the YouTube videos, as well as being able to decide some of the stories that we get to read if you're on Patreon, and maybe even being vetted to come on an episode and talk with me or talk with us, depending on who you want to talk to, or maybe even read a story with us. And, you know, there are some things to read through over there if you want to check out Patreon and possibly become a subscriber for the Lotsa Pasta podcast. And for this week's thank you or spank you, I have 3 very special people to fucking thank. And I'm going to go in order of subscribers because I think that's fair. Kitty, aka Taurus Filth, a member of our fucking crew, was the first person to subscribe to us. And that's fucking loyalty, people. She's drunk the Kool-Aid, which was actually Flavor Aid, by the way. And she's come back to life as a zombie, and she's still on the fucking boat, you know? Secondly, I have Evan Gravino, who is a little bit crazier than you might at first suspect. I think you'd be surprised. But I've known him for a very fucking long time, and he's always supported my endeavors and always supported me, and we've always had a fun time getting fucked up together. So thank you for that. And lastly, a big fucking thank you to our newest subscriber, Trevor the Werefishy, who I think, like, probably holds the record for the fastest anyone has ever listened to the entirety of this show, because he caught me on Reddit, I want to say, like, last year, and said, love the show, been listening, it's great, I listen at work when I'm taking a shit. And I was like, yo, that's cool, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And he just signed up for the Patreon at our highest fucking level and said, oh, by the way, I caught up. So here's your fucking shout out and useless award. If you want to be a Lotsa Pasta podcast Patreon subscriber, then you can find the link in our description of our videos or podcasts posted anywhere, whether it's iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, you name it, the link will be there. Or search us at Lotsa Pasta on Coffee or Patreon. Thank you for listening, and now, on to the episode.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Dum, dum, dum. I see dead people. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Here's Johnny.
Stop. We have such sights to show you.
Bring the motherfucking ruckus! Fuck you too!
Come.
Not yum. It's not yum.
For the sake of the TV, it's
I
taking
think
a
they
little
know we're
bit
going to talk
catch up.
about him.
Yeah, they definitely tapped into our house. They tapped into our house and they're listening to us talk about what made all the frogs gay. All the frogs are gay, man.
They are.
The aliens did it. That's the only explanation.
Or are frogs
It is.
aliens?
They might be.
Some superior species. They
I do
figured
think
it out.
frogs and butterflies are pretty cool that they start as one thing and then they evolve
They
into another.
transform into something
It is
like little
aliens.
Pokemon.
Yep. It is
Tell
little
her to
Pokemon.
stop chewing on her paw.
Don't do that.
Puppy, go to sleep. Good dog.
That's a good pup. This is definitely gonna be an interesting fucking episode. Let me tell you, because I haven't done an alien episode in a while, and usually for an alien episode, I'm zonked out of my fucking mind because I'm willing to talk about any aspect of the alien agenda, and I don't know if I'm ready to talk about that with you guys.
Are you not zonked enough?
It's not that I'm not zonked enough. It's that I genuinely believe in aliens to a certain extent.
Oh, I'm balls deep.
And I don't feel stupid saying that. I just don't know if I've ever had that conversation with you guys. I'm more of like a.
They exist.
I'm more of like a. They have to exist because we exist.
Because we exist. So something else. Like
If there are so many other universes,
Opportunities.
Billions of them.
if there are so many other universes, and
it's mathematically
yeah,
improbable that they don't
that we are
Exactly.
that we are alone. Yeah. And when it comes to faith, which is another thing that kind of comes up during
It's similar.
it's similar, but it's not. Like, I believe in a higher power to an extent of like a life form without words. Like, words cannot possibly describe it, but then that literally just makes me go, oh, so God's an alien.
Yeah.
But like
Something had to
at the
start
same
it.
time, I'm also like, I don't know if there's God or if there's just like a different type of organism.
I look at it as like a
You
mother.
know?
Like not like a man. Like
Yeah,
God's
you think of
portrayed
God
as.
as you
I
think of
as
God
like
as
a creator.
Alanis Morissette.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In her good times.
Yeah, and when it comes to aliens, I think there isn't, because of life forms, because of how biology exists on our planet, there have to be Rick and Morty style infinite universes
be.
where literally, like Rick and Morty, like the entire race are just bug people.
Yeah, I think they came and looked
The
at
entire
Earth.
race are just
Said,
couch people. Like
Lava monsters.
lava monsters.
I think they came and looked at Earth and
Just-
said, "What can we? This can sustain everything that we want. What can we do here?" And then they're like, "Oh, a monkey." And
that's the science experiment.
I don't
right
think
there.
that they could help themselves and said, the higher ups of the alien world said, "Whatever you do when you go to Earth, just don't fuck anything." And
We
they
fucked
just couldn't.
everything.
They
They
fucked
just couldn't.
everything.
Everything. They
And-
were like,
and
you're
then-
gonna fuck. These are gonna fuck.
Yep. Someone fucked a monkey. And now
Somebody
we're here.
fucked a pangolin.
Yep. It happened. And now we're here.
Yeah. No, that's the funny part, is that even in that discussion, it kind of gets down to evolution, creationism, when it comes to biology and the beginning of it, and
It's my favorite
Big
subject.
Bang. Mm-hmm. It's like, what
Well,
even?
the Big Bang's a crock of shit.
What
I was going to
even
say, I don't
was
think there was...
that?
It's the
Big
Big
Bang's a
Bang, they
crack,
make it seem like it
like-
was just chaos. It's a methodically... I believe it's a
Like
methodically planned
we get
out...
taught that in school. Like it's proven fact.
No.
But, like it is
It's a theory. It's a theory.
But
A gay
but bi-
theory.
but
It is a
bi-
gay
but bi-
theory.
but biology is also, is that theory or is
Everything,
that proven
everything's
fact?
potentially a theory.
Right? I don't know.
What
yeah,
is- what
because
is
no
fact?
one will ever live that time. So until we have time travel,
It's too
everything-
long.
What is
everything
fact?
is a theory. I think fact goes back to written knowledge, and it's hard for me to say that like that before primate, before literal Neanderthal activity, like proto-human, it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, hundreds of thousands of years as monkeys. Hundreds of thousands of years as little slimy tadpole
The new
creatures.
science that I was just listening to
we
the
came
other
out of
day.
the ocean, man. That's what Darwin is
it had-
saying. Is we were just two cells floating in a hot body of water that eventually decided to fuck
To
one
grow.
day.
They're saying that
Eggs.
200,000
And then-
years ago,
Fish,
things just
legs,
happened.
land.
Like, it wasn't like a long period of time that consciousness became a thing. It was like, boom, consciousness. It wasn't just like a long period of little bit of consciousness,
Oh, of
more
course
consciousness.
it was.
was just like,
Of course.
boom, things are conscious now. So like what
started
it had, my opinion, what we're about to talk about, alien interference.
Alien interference is fun. Alien interference comes back to what we were saying earlier about like the Incans, the Mayans, the Aztecs, like the Egyptians, certain types of Greek
Stargate.
old school
Stargate.
Greek
Stargate's
structures.
a great movie.
That is a good movie. When you start thinking about that, where does your mind go?
It's thinking about what?
Alien, obstruction in the
I
human development
think
process.
that
Stonehenge.
I don't think that I don't think that humans existed in another world like we do now. I think that they
Wasn't
saw
Stonehenge just like people were just pointing rocks in certain ways because
they were trying to make it like pyramids.
like a
I'm
calendar?
convinced. I think that pyramids were angled in a
I
certain
thought it
way
was supposed to
to
tell the time.
bring. It could have been, but no one. Again, like we were talking about before, no one knows. And I always look at history as like, you ever play a game of Whisper Down the Alley?
Yeah.
And at the end, it's never correct. Think about all the history we've been told and all the shit that. So it's just fun to
you
talk
always
about because
you
no one.
always start with like bowl of New England clam chowder
Yeah.
soup, and by the end it's literally like fuck you, Derek.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Derek is a dickhead.
Exactly.
so-
Derek's a fucking douche.
Derek.
Actually, Derek, don't take that personally. I don't know why I said that
Yeah,
name
we love you,
specifically,
Derek.
but there's a good Derek out there who's actually on our show, so now I feel
Aw, my bad.
Cut this part.
the other name I was thinking of was also Greg, but there's a fucking Greg on the show too. Shit. So anyway, my thing, I think.
Exposed.
So let me classify you real
Yeah.
quick.
Classify me, baby.
You are Ridley Scott Prometheus. The engineers come down to Earth, quote unquote. One of them sacrifices himself, and it creates biology as we
Yeah.
know it. Oxygen is released in the atmosphere, nitrogen, hydrogen, literally all of these things commingle and create a new organism.
Okay, I think
That's-
that's way before what I'm talking about. But yes, I agree.
But that's the school of logic that you apply to. I like the Stargate school of logic.
I've never seen that
which
movie.
is humans existed. Humans were just
They were
stupid.
stupid.
Ah.
They were
They
slaves.
didn't really
were-
know how to talk or communicate or work
Interesting.
together. They really were like
They were those
monkey
dudes
monkey people.
throwing spears.
Yeah, literally 2001 Space Odyssey, monkey people.
Anyway, these aliens
And these aliens
pyramids,
come down and they start
take
telling them what
over,
to do.
and they take over as like the emperors. And
They
stuff.
give them
Interesting,
technology,
okay.
but in
but they make
in
them
severance
slaves.
to them, and
Yeah.
enslavement to them.
And
so
they're like super
they give them
powered. So
society.
were they
Human.
conscious or were they just?
Oh, they were conscious.
Oh, they were.
and they were-
okay.
They had
they were evil.
towns.
In-
They
no,
had
no, I'm talking about
the people.
The people, yeah, the people.
Yeah.
The people had consciousness. They
Yeah.
they
Did
had
they?
the ability to make decisions, to love, to feel emotion. They knew all of these things, but much like a monkey person, it begins and ends at like, I know how to make a structure to live in, and I know how to hit something with a stick. Like that's where it ends.
Okay.
Like no like commonplace. There was no like merchant interaction. There was no building the wheel. They were not that advanced.
Interesting. Okay.
So
so who do you think
hundreds of
introduced
years,
that kind of?
the aliens
technology?
come in and they start to introduce these beginner elements,
okay.
much like the rumors of the pyramids and the rumors of the Aztec and
okay.
Incan Empire and whatnot with the temples in Central America and whatnot. So
You don't think that they just became smart enough and figured it out? No, because it was too. Some of that stuff is.
I don't know.
Perfect.
I was listening
Some
to
of that
this.
stuff is too.
There's people that like.
it's a
study
real deep
the-
dive.
Yeah.
It's a real deep dive because to really support it, you'd have to say
They were mathematically.
each of these people in
perfect.
different countries at wildly different times all had the same idea to build the same thing.
Which is
And like
wild.
the only thing that can explain that is the kind of migration culture of the nomad back in the day, where people just like moved around a lot.
Or like the
So,
carvings
like,
that they found back
knowledge-
then too.
Knowledge could be shared a little bit easier because people were just really good at moving the fuck around. And back then,
a
you know,
long way to go.
Pangea fucking theory,
Yeah, it was
the world was relatively closer together. The plates hadn't shifted nearly as far as they are now. So it's some Gilgamesh level shit.
I like the part where they find pictures that were drawn, or I guess you could say inscribed
and shit?
way long ago, but they had some sort of beings
Oh yeah.
above the picture that
yeah.
were kind of navigating and like not kind of like your Stargate theory that were telling things on the painting what to do, or not painting but inscriptions. So
helpful.
How
So is
did
the
they
idea-
even know? Yeah,
But is the
overseer.
idea meant to be literal?
I hope.
Because much like we're talking about, much like we're about to get into, everything could just be stories.
Yeah.
The Bible is
You're
just
right,
a collection
just
of
stories,
stories.
exactly.
None of it should be taken as fact. It's not meant to be literal.
And who knows? What if Jesus was an alien?
That's Prometheus. You are literally the school of Prometheus. In the sequel to Prometheus, or no, not the sequel to Prometheus. In Prometheus, Ridley Scott wanted to include a scene where Jesus was basically an alien.
Yeah, he came down and said, "I have
Could
all
help
the answers. I will
people.
help you." And I'm also convinced we're probably going to read some stories about aliens being evil. I'm convinced that
Probably.
they're here to help. I'm convinced that they look at us, even when
You have to think.
we're talking
you
about
have to think both sides of the coin. exist.
exactly. My opinion.
Because you have to think that they could
There
literally
has to
be
be.
anything. They could be stupid. They could be.
They can be
could have
everything,
a brain,
just like us.
They could be literally a brain. So you never know what you're working
I thought
with.
it was
That's
a
the
cool.
thing
I
about
thought it was a cool story when back when the nuclear powers were really becoming a thing. I think it was World War II, and around the biggest nuclear base, they saw the most UFO activity they ever have, and then the nuclear plant just like not dissipated, but like stopped working at a point. So they were kind of saying like, who was this other thing that stopped the nuclear things from happening, and like who's looking at this? Was it another country with their new technology, or was it another world?
And I'm sure there was still a fact of people out there that said, you know, divine intervention.
Who knows what it could
things
be?
just happen. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because there's a bunch of different schools of logic when it comes to the aliens and their idea of good versus evil, their idea of balance. Because a lot of people would even say that like the stereotypical short gray, tall gray aliens aren't necessarily evil. They're more scientific. They're more
I
logical.
mean, that crosses you into Star Trek territory, right? Like they don't interfere
Tall-
with the planets, but they're gonna monitor and make sure that the world
Yeah,
and
it's-
civilization.
No,
the way it's
there are
supposed to.
definitely people out there who think they've been interacted with by rogue agents of several different alien
There's a man,
communities.
Dr. Stephen Greer. He has this
Yeah,
whole
I know, Greer.
thing, and he has this group of people. It's like essentially like a
Dude, there's so many
like a
books.
camp, and
There's so many books.
they-
There's so many collections.
yeah, and
so many-
and he's convinced that they're good. They're
Benevolent.
good at heart. Benevolent. Benevolent.
Elephant.
Benevolent. Elephant.
Benevolent.
But Stephen Greer, if you guys haven't heard of him, that are listening, definitely check him out because he talks about, shows videos, shows everything about divine intervention, and it is absolutely moving. And if you listen to him and then come away and don't believe in aliens, then I don't know. I don't know what to say. They're out there. They're out there. 100%
I think it would
they're out
take.
there.
I think it would take a very closed-minded person, both logically, practically,
say no.
scientifically,
Yeah.
morally, to say no. I think the only like sect of humanity that I could think of saying no are like the super religious,
Or the Mormons?
where they just think that
religious in general.
Yeah.
where they just think that like alien is just another word for you know God's great gift of life. I like how many different interpretations of aliens that exist because it just shows how imaginative the concept could be.
Exactly.
That's
stories you can tell.
actually, and I don't think I talked about it on the podcast yet, but that's actually why I really liked Nope.
Nope is fantastic.
I thought so I had the twist spoiled for me by a Reddit thread.
Don't spoil it
like
for me.
like a year ago. I won't.
seen it yet?
I won't go into it.
Oh, then it's right up your alley tonight, man. You gotta watch it as soon as
I could
possible.
probably fucking bootleg it after this if you want to
It's
watch
great.
it.
It's great.
But it's aliens done as they've never been done before in a movie, and that's what's immediately attracting about it.
Yeah.
Because it takes your entire concept of what an alien can be and turns it on its head in the most literal way.
I like
and
that a lot.
It's so, I'm not going to say it's the best movie ever made because it's not, but there's something very original and very imaginative and very
Believable.
scientifically
That's
And those are the
believable.
things I love.
scientifically
Possible.
scientifically fucking scary.
Sure.
About the concept.
Right.
And how it's executed. So I knew about that walking into it. I knew about it before I walked into it, and I still fucking loved it. And that just goes to show how something needs to be seen to be understood.
No, I didn't dive deep. I just let it come to me, and it was
I
ridiculous.
knew the
like
twist.
that.
I couldn't wait. I knew the twist from the minute the second trailer dropped.
Okay.
Someone had leaked from an early screening pretty much the entire plot of the movie.
Oh,
and
damn.
I went looking for it. I needed
wanted
to
to know the idea of
know
it. Okay.
what this movie was going to do so
Okay.
that I could holster my expectations.
Okay, true.
And because I lowered them by reading that, I came out above it. And it's because they approach aliens kind of like all the different ways Stephen King does. Stephen King loves to kind of do different types of aliens. So I'm not spoiling anything by saying this, but like The Mist is like a window between realities. He doesn't think of aliens so much as outer space as aliens that exist between the veil. So that's where The Mist comes from. It is supposed to be an evil doppelganger entity from beyond the stars. That's why it comes to Earth to feed. It is, if you haven't seen it, chapter 1 or 2, the twist is that he's an alien. He's not from this planet. He's not from this reality. He comes here to eat. And that's why in the lore of Stephen King, he's afraid of a giant turtle god that rules another universe. It's very stupid. I don't know why it's in the book. There's a lot of stupid shit in the
Turtle
book.
God.
But there's a turtle god.
It's
There's
a
a turtle
giant
god
fucking
that's
Squirtle.
He's
Squirtle.
he's always looking. He's always
Giant
looking.
Ninja Turtle. It's Leonardo.
He's literally looking at Pennywise.
Cowabunga.
He's literally looking at Pennywise with like dagger eyes the entire book, and then Stephen King does something very interesting. A lot later in his career, he does Under the Dome. The big twist. The big twist of Under the Dome is that this giant town gets a giant like contact lens dropped on it, and it turns to lock them into their society and see how quickly they deconstruct and turn on each other and kill each other and turn into animals. Very, very Lord of the Flies for a town. And it turns out to be nothing more than a bunch of kid aliens with a magnifying glass on humanity.
Interesting.
Much like how we burn ants, these were
Giants.
These were
funny.
They were in the books. They're described as triangles of floating leather.
Look at these little fucks.
Triangles
Floating
of
leather?
floating leather
Interesting.
that would vibrate and turn and look at one another. But they didn't have eyes, they didn't have features, and they kind of looked like rhombuses or diamonds or triangles. And they would just
Three
shake.
pieces of moving leather. Like a
And
nice
the
Harley
idea
on a
was
Saturday.
that they were children and that they had gotten a hold of a very interesting technology from their people. And a fourth one was a female, and it was never allowed to play with the experiment of the three boy floating creatures. And one day when they weren't looking, the people in Under the Dome essentially pray to the fourth one that they become a parent to as the story goes on, and it unlocks the dome. And destroys the experiment. But it's such a weird twist ending
Nope.
to that. No.
Under the Dome.
Under the Dome. It's such a weird.
Nope throws a twist at you relatively middle of the movie.
It does. It does.
I
It plays.
won't even say twist,
it
but
plays
just the
its
update
hand-
to the climax.
the point. It updates. It updates the idea of the movie relatively quickly, and we can definitely watch it after this because it's phenomenal. But that's why I like something like that. That's why I like how that exists, because that just shows how even something we come to understand as alien, we could not understand it at the very same time.
At the moment, yeah, we never would have thought of that.
Because we really don't have concrete evidence. We really don't have a ton of shit. Like, even large government documents...
Area 51.
large government documents that have been leaked over the last 5 years are finally declassified, where we can go into and read them, like the JFK documents that just got released a couple years ago. Like, we can now go into and read these documents and find out that Roswell really was nothing more than a weather balloon. It really was just an experiment. It was a World War II experiment gone wrong, because the idea was they were trying to create a radar for the sky. Much like how a submarine uses echolocation under the water to notice other submarines. What they were trying to do was create a balloon that would go up into the stratosphere and be able to tell whether planes were coming in to drop nukes.
Yeah.
And what it would do is it would send out this signal, but the signal was so strong it actually popped the fucking balloon, and the balloon fell on someone's yard. And because the technology was so advanced for the time, and because they didn't want it to leak out to the rest of the world so that they can steal it, they literally masqueraded it, letting the farmer go nuts thinking that something fell from the sky. Because the less knowledge the commies, the Japs, literally fucking anyone had at the time, the better for the U.S. government, necessarily.
Have you ever
it's
seen
the same
something
atom bomb theory.
Yourself, either of you two, have you ever seen something in the sky like that you believed was alien?
I've only talked with one person on the show before who's had a legitimate experience. And it's Mr. Skelly Bones. But he told me a story about being in a car and losing time.
That's wild.
Like seeing a weird collection of lights and looking at it in the distance. Mm-hmm. And then he looks back down at his car radio and like 20 minutes have passed and he literally just got there.
That's nuts. Actually probably in February or March had an
He's
experience.
a listener of the show and he hates how much I exaggerate that story. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and say, fuck you. I tell the story however I do. You told me. I have to cut that.
Oh. What do you, Mr. Skelly Bones?
That's his real name.
That's so fucking...
I told the story once, like a light came over his car and he felt things and he was like, that's not how it was. Like I saw a light and then I like lost time and he's like, don't exaggerate it.
Well,
fuck you. It makes a better story.
Close enough.
And I might equate
it's
it
Hollywood,
to,
baby.
I like to say aliens because at the time I was doing deep nosedives into just the alien world, and this girl I was talking to also, we were just talking the whole night about this kind of shit.
Aliens.
Aliens.
You pillow talking
that
aliens.
That is blue talking love.
Yeah, blue talking
Remember.
love. So we're on the beach. I'll set the scene. We're watching the sunset on a crisp, cool North Carolina February evening. And we're chilling, having some wine.
This guy's arm wrapped around her.
She just lit up a nice fine blunt. We're sitting on the beach.
My kind of lady.
We're talking about just what could be in this world, what's out there, what's going on, whatever. We stand up, we're feeling ourselves. She puts on some music. We're dancing on the beach. The song "Dancing in the Moonlight" comes on.
Dancing in the moonlight.
Everybody, we're dancing. We happen to both look up at the same time, and in the distance, almost like a firework that took up the entire sky, I'd say 50 different orange little lights lit up the sky, completely went away. We were like, what the fuck was that? We're looking just around. We're like, whoa, what was that? We look to our right. There's this, I don't want to say orb, but this circle of orange light. Might have been a plane just coming right at us, getting bigger down the coast. It turns, goes inland, disappears. We're like, wow. That was either a really big plane or what the fuck is going on tonight. Maybe North Carolina's a very big military state. Maybe it's military experiments, whatever. That looked really cool.
Dudes in jetpacks.
There's a fun book and a fun movie. I think it's called Fires in the Sky, but it's literally that same concept. What the government will tell you is that it's military flair. It's like a plane flying by
It
and
very
dropping
well could
flares to
be.
point out
But
something
what
real
the
quick.
fuck were the 100 different little orange things that popped up? So the plane
Dude,
leaves.
there were a series of like 30 lights floating over fucking
Yeah.
LA like fucking I don't even
Yeah.
fucking know, like 2 years ago, and no one bat an
Yeah.
eye at it. You know, like
It's nuts.
it could be a very
So many
skewed
different things.
perception of light and darkness. You know, it's so fucking tough
So
to
then
say.
so then we sit back down, we're like, what the fuck just happened? Like that was
Yeah.
absolutely insane. Like what the fuck's going on? And
What are
right
we
in the
seeing?
distance, kind of like as someone, as I like to describe it, on Disney Channel writes the hi, this
Marker?
is Disney Channel, uses the light beam. Literally the orb I saw on the beach that went inland, 3 of them drawn perfectly circles, not just showing up and disappearing, but drawn. 1, 2, 3, lit up, disappear. And we're just sitting there like, what the fuck was that? And then we're kind of just like freaking out the entire night. And we stayed on the beach till like 1 a.m. Didn't see anything more, but that all happened within maybe 15, 20 minutes of each other. And it was just after we were talking about how like amazing the outer world is and like how you can't really be closed-minded to many things. And like the coincidence of this like day was absolutely insane.
Have you tried researching it? Have you tried seeing online if anyone in the
No
local
one.
area?
No one. I even wrote it down. My grandma is she could go on and on for days about aliens and spirituality of this and that and this. So she was like, whatever you saw, write it down so you never forget it. Like, and so I wrote it down in my phone, just exactly what I saw and what happened.
Well, you know,
But nothing exists online. No, I went on Twitter because, you know, when you go to Twitter, it's usually someone writes something
Someone
on
might
Twitter.
see it too. Right.
Reddit, nothing.
have you looked into Tom DeLonge's To the Stars?
No,
Academy?
but I have not.
So Tom DeLonge, famous frontrunner of
Blink-182.
Blink-182,
Yep.
funds one of the biggest UFO organizations in the country.
Oh, I actually just think I listened to him on
a-
Steve-O's podcast.
Probably, yeah. And he
That'd be great. All the 2 of them.
Tom
That's
Tom
awesome.
DeLonge talks about aliens literally all the time, and he's the one who got a hold of the recent Navy footage. I want to say like just 2 years ago, where planes were just literally two.
Oh, is that the one in
planes.
Portugal? That like the plane, something about the coast off of Portugal or Italy or something
I
like
don't
that?
remember where it was. That's the problem. Is it's the least interesting detail of the footage to me, because it's literally just 2 planes flying at an incredible height, and something comes out of nowhere on their radar
And zoops them out.
zooms
That
around
is exactly
them.
what I heard.
Both of them see it, report it back to the base, note that it's there, and try to catch it on like speed cams.
And nothing?
And they break out. No, you find a very small image of something
Oh, Iron Man.
picking up past. No, that's even funnier. That something picks up small diagonally, very very rhombusy looking, just dart paths on the speed cam. It doesn't clock color, it clocks shape. So it goes by, it's like bright blue against like a green black background,
Because it's that fast.
and it stops laterally and changes direction on a dime and fucking disappears. And them being skilled pilots of
We're
their,
like, what?
there's not a single aircraft that exists that
can
can
do
stop and pivot on a dime and redirect like that. It would literally kill whatever's inside. So, you know, it could be anything. That's the wildest thing. And that what gets me, your comment gets me into the
That's
story.
terrifying.
Your comment gets
Fucking
me into the
nuts.
story of at LAX, I want to say somewhere in the last 2 years, a dude has been seen flying around.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lone jetpacker has been cataloged flying as high as 3,000 feet all over LA, and
Tony Stark.
people aren't sure if it's the military tech that was tested with the Navy recently, where they have the hand cannons in the jetpack, where they can like
Zip around a
they
little
can
bit.
zip around and get up to as high as like 600 feet.
It's
I believe.
fast. I just saw the
It's-
video
it's
of it
very
last
fast.
week. Like the
A
thing
guy-
flew, zoom.
A guy jumps off of a Navy ship, I think 3 miles offshore, gets to lands on a beach in like 2 minutes, and then zooms all the way back in like a 5-minute video.
Yeah, the technology that is coming out.
And It's
fast.
I consider it not the aliens we're talking about, but it is alien technology for sure.
I mean, that gets into the Area 51 argument, which is pretty much, are we slowly starting to come out with better technology for like phones and internet and for waves, different types of waves like microwaves and red waves and all of these things that the eye can't see, Wi-Fi, are we finally understanding this technology that's been, something we've had for a while? Or are we essentially having help with it?
Like
And
Eternals.
yeah, man. And where's it coming from? Why do all these things seem to kind of exist around the same time? Yeah, there's really cool shit on the horizon for commercial use.
Oh yeah.
Flying cars.
Just think about all the shit that's
flying
happened in the
bikes,
last, I don't know, if you just go back
jetpacks.
5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Imagine what's gonna fucking be here in 30 years.
Digital printing food
Yeah, digital
like-
printing guns.
is like a new thing.
You can digital print guns.
Digital printing food is
That's
now
bad.
a thing. Oh yeah, you could print a gun.
It's fucking silly. And actually, silicone, which is pretty much what the 3D images make, out of silicone, they found bits and pieces of that in pyramids. So, like, did that exist all the way back then?
Yeah.
Is silicone that thing that aliens used and introduced here, and we're like, hey, there's,
Let me stick this in you.
yeah, stick whatever you want inside
Open
me.
up your butt. I'm coming in.
Mhm.
Your fist.
Hey,
No, just sticking some silicone
Yeah.
up there.
I'm ready for it.
Here you go.
I'll let it out. If it had to do with
You
aliens,
need a
I
good
would
place
say,
for that to go. Oop,
Mhm.
right on in
I'd
there.
spread my cheeks for an alien. Would you?
No, probably not.
I would.
I'd go to
It's
sleep.
the one thing I tell my girlfriend: no butt stuff.
No
Please,
butt stuff, except if you're an
like,
alien.
Like you don't need to do that.
If you could show me the outer space world by putting something inside me, I would let you do it.
You heard it
What
here
if it's like a
first,
giant
folks.
spider thing and it's like
You heard
it's spider fingers? What's like? In
You heard it
your
here
asshole?
first.
Would I be able to ask what it can show
young
me
young
afterwards?
listener come just wants an alien to show him the world.
I'm telling you.
Shining,
I can show
shining, shimmering,
you
splendid.
the world.
And all it costs is possibly a finger in the bum.
Do whatever you want, Mr. Alien. Oh,
It
I
reminds
forgot
me
to.
of Man Seeking Woman, where the aliens come to Earth and all that they want is to like fuck.
I'm telling you. I thought it was a South Park episode, but I'm telling you, aliens came down here and were like, "Wow, this is a beautiful place. Like, what is this place?
And they just fucked
Wow,
everything.
what is this place?" And then they walked in and they're like, "Oh, man, you're telling me this animal got a pussy? You
That
telling
is
me
a
I can
South Park
I can
episode.
fuck that?"
Yeah. That is a South Park episode.
I could fuck that.
And naturally, couldn't hold back.
I think
Aliens are dogs. Yeah, aliens are dogs.
I think
I can relate, aliens.
I think which one of you wants to start?
I do, obviously.
Okay.
Spam.
I'm going to give you the choice of do you want to read Shadows on the Wall or Some Shooting Stars Aren't Meant to Be Wished Upon?
I want to read the Shooting Stars one.
Okay.
I
yeah,
see
you,
a lot of
You
them.
can have the stars.
I've seen like
you
50
did. Yeah,
I've seen
so
like
you can go
15
stars.
since
I will
fucking
go
lived there.
opposite.
Aliens are in North Carolina, I'm telling you. Or the military is. I don't know which one.
You know,
but
it's
I
a much
believe in the
nicer
aliens.
place to live than Pennsylvania. so
There's no
like,
light pollution, I'm telling you. I believe
Yeah.
it's aliens. I'm sure others will believe it's the military.
They
but-
they like the warmth too.
Dude, I was fucking meditating real hard one night when I was like really into aliens like in the winter last year, and I was deep like 30 minutes in, maybe even an hour into like meditation, and kid you not, I heard a in my ear, and I shot right up out of my bed, and I
was
was
just-
like, what the fuck was that?
Dude, that's just me.
It was you?
It was just me coming
It's
to,
even weirder if you heard.
coming to say what
Dude.
up.
Why didn't you tell me you were here?
Yeah.
I want to let you. I
would
want to
have
let you
been
do butt
weirder.
stuff.
It would have
Imagine, yeah.
It would
Yeah,
have
sorry, it
been-
wasn't Bobby. It was
What?
actually But it was like calming, but it was terrifying at the same time. And I've never experienced something like that. And I don't think it was myself. I don't think I was
You were just
dreaming.
listening
I
to
was
the-
fully conscious.
Original cast of Company,
Yeah.
sing the opening number.
I felt like what you were listening to was the
But it also
live action adaptation of Cats.
it might be. But I'm also a firm believer in like your brain tells you what you want to hear. So I could have been really into aliens at the time and meditating and wanted to hear something.
Well, that's
like
what
that.
they say.
So that's why I'm really wanting an alien to come do butt stuff with me.
That's why.
Ooh.
That's
I'm
why.
manifesting.
That's actually why they say.
Call me Akbar.
Allah, Allah.
It's a trap.
It's trap.
There's one. The funny thing about that is, I really do think that when you break it down, aliens fall into two different categories.
Just like everything else, black and white, straight and gray.
Actually, that does make it funnier. I was gonna say the ones that want to do butt stuff
Black and white, straight and gay.
and the ones that want to eat you.
Oh.
That's it. There's no others.
No, I think
No help? No help?
There is no in between.
There's no help?
They
help
want
is
to
when they do the
touch
butt
your jagon.
Or eat
They
you?
want you to touch their jagon.
Oh, suck on my jagon. Suck my jagon.
Or they want to fucking eat you.
All right,
That's where I think the split is.
I love it.
Without further ado, is that where we're going to go? Shadows on the wall.
Yeah, you're gonna read Shadows on
Shadows
the Wall.
on the fucking wall. All right. Growing up, I was convinced I'd be abducted by aliens. I lived in constant... Yeah.
I'm waiting.
I lived in constant sleep-deprived fear as every strange shadow and every reflection of light on the wall signified the beginning of what I knew would be my end. Logic told me the shadows were just piles of dirty clothes or my coat rack. My cat.
That's my cat, man.
No, it's just dirty clothes. That's my fucking cat. You'll get the fuck out of there. That the reflections were just the passing cars on the street below. But logic fails in the face of terror. If it weren't for my older brother, Jason. Yeah, I love you, Jason.
Fuck you, Jason.
Jason. Oh, it wasn't for him.
Oh yeah, we love you, Jason.
We shared a bedroom. There's a very real chance I would have lost my mind.
All right, Jason's a real one.
Jason's a solid. I remember my 13th birthday with the same detached sense of helpless violation as a victim of sexual assault.
God
Jeez,
damn
bro,
it. Jesus.
bro, not only do I love aliens, but this old man touched me bunghole.
Hey, the day itself had been fine.
The day itself had been fine. Pleasant, even. My parents, who were always caring and supportive, did their best to make sure my birthday was enjoyable. It's my birthday.
God damn it.
They knew I was stressed. They knew I was anxious. I never told them why, though. Only Jason knew, and he promised to keep it a secret. After the festivities, I went up to my room to play video games, obviously. I had 2 hours to play before lights out. Jason sat in his immaculately made bed, which was in stark contrast to my messy one, and watched, offering pointers as I died, over and over. 2 hours went by quickly, and Dad came in to say it was time to go to sleep. He sat next to Jason on the bed and let me know he was proud of me. How I'd been brave.
Proud.
Despite having a hard time that things would get better, he wished me a happy birthday, kissed me goodnight. Oh, switched off the light on the way out of the room. Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad.
That's my head.
It's my ear.
For a little while, I felt pretty good. Like I said, I never told my parents exactly what had been bothering me. They'd ask every so often, but they wouldn't pry. They could tell I was struggling. I heard them cleaning up downstairs, comforted by the fact they were still awake and alert. With a sense of security I hadn't felt in a long time, I drifted off to sleep. After a couple hours, I woke up and glanced at the clock. 11:26.
Oh, almost butthole time.
I closed my eyes again. Before I could drift off to sleep, though, I noticed something. The room smelled bad.
I shit myself.
It wasn't a scent I could identify in the slightest. Nope, I'm used to that. It happens every night. It was heavy and medicinal, but organic, too. Strange. Alien.
He said the word.
My eyelids lifted to the sight something shuffling toward my bed.
E.T. He wants to phone home.
I tried to shout on bolts away, but nothing worked. No movement, no sound. Only my eyes could receive my commands. And they stared, bulging out of my skull, as this thing stood over my supine body. I knew it'd finally come to me. This was the day I'd anticipated and dreaded for years. I tried to make out the features of it on its face. All I could pick up was this hideousness, deformity, a head with an upper left quadrant missing, A mouth with no lower mandible and a shriveled tongue lolling down to its skinny neck.
Robbie. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It gurgled. It knew my name. It had been studying me. It knew my name.
No more, Robbie. Oh, hold on. No more me, Robbie. No more me. Time to grow up.
I like that voice.
Its head came down and touched my forehead with the remains of an upper lip.
Oh, little kiss.
As it tilted, maggots tumbled out of the cratered skull, landed on my face. They squirmed and tumbled onto my pillow, so it just turned from alien to horror.
Yeah.
Real quick.
I felt them writhing against my ears and the sides of my neck.
I'll miss you.
It turned.
So quiet.
I'll miss you. It's like I'll miss you, bruh.
I'll
It
miss
turned
you,
and
bro.
walked toward Jason's bed.
Oh, not
I tried
Jason.
over and over to scream as panic suffused the entirety of my being. The dark world around me blurred, and I knew I was going to pass out. I knew I was going to fail my brother and not be able to warn him before this creature reached him, before I lost consciousness, before I passed into a dreamless morass of black. I hated myself for being so useless, for being so weak. My mother's shrill, panicked shriek catapulted me back into reality. The room was bright, it was morning. Mom stood over Jason's bed wailing and sobbing, and I heard Dad thundering across the hall from their bedroom. He burst into the room and immediately saw what Mom did. I watched his knees tremble, as if he were about to fall. I didn't move. Everything from the night was coming back, and I was certain Jason was dead. My big brother was gone. The certainty was overwhelming, and searing tears leaked down my cheeks. It doesn't need the
Yeah,
other.
searing tears.
The certainty was overwhelming, and searing tears leaked down my cheeks onto the pillow. Something wriggled against my neck. I gasped and leapt to my feet. Everything went slowly for the next few minutes. I turned and saw the ring of maggots around my head print on the pillow. Dad was crossing the room to take me in his arms when he saw the bugs in my pillow, in my hair, and whispered, "Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God." He picked me up. He hadn't done that in years.
Little baby.
You mean big baby?
Big baby.
I rode out of the room in his strong arms.
Don't look at your brother's bed.
He ordered. I couldn't help myself.
Don't do it.
I looked at as we exited. One glance was all I needed. Jason's body was on the bed. He was wearing a stained and dirt-encrusted blue suit.
Oh no.
I thought to myself, as I took in his injuries. The lower, torn mandible, the caved-in skull, the desiccated green-gray skin that was mostly gone. Mom's raking sobs had escalated to hysterical screaming. As Dad and I rounded the corner and headed downstairs, we heard her shouting, "How did you come back? Why are you here? Who did this?" Dad whispered in my ear as we walked.
It's okay, sweetheart. It's okay. We don't know who did it, but it's going to be all right. It's not your brother anymore. It's just the body he doesn't need. He's still in heaven, okay? He's still in heaven.
I started to shake, and Dad's voice cracked with emotion as he spoke those last words.
He's in heaven.
It sounded horribly familiar. I closed my eyes and saw a coffin. I saw my parents standing next to it, sobbing. I saw a large, framed picture of Jason in a room full of my friends and family. But I also saw the toys I was playing with, and I saw Jason sitting next to me. We played while everyone else cried. He grinned and said,
Don't be upset, Robbie. I'll be here to help while you grow up. You don't have to feel sad.
My Aunt Lindsay came up to me and stood in the exact same spot where Jason was sitting. I remember thinking it was strange she could do that, and then she knelt down and said,
He's in heaven.
before walking back to my cousins and uncle. Jason winked at my confused face, then we kept playing with our toys. Jason died, I whispered to Dad. He nodded, and I watched as he eyed the muddy footprints from the back door which led up down the hall and up the stairs to my room.
You were probably too young to remember, but he loved you so much.
I thought back to all the fun we'd had in our room over the years, leading up to the video games of my 13th birthday the night before.
You're the same age he was now.
Dad said, and tears freely flowed down into his beard.
You're all grown up.
Something from the previous night buzzed in my ear.
No more me, Robbie. No more me. Time to grow up.
And then it clicked, and my screams joined those of my mother in a terrible, dissonant chorus.
Okay, well that was Shadows on the Wall apparently.
Shadows on the wall.
Shadows on the wall.
Gosh.
From the windows!
To the wall.
Shadows on the wall.
Shadows on the wall.
To the dead brother in my bed. Oh, his fucked up head.
Yeah, right.
And the alien licked my balls. Oh.
So, is the kid just crazy? Is that how we're gonna summarize
I think he
that?
actually took a bad dose of mushrooms that night.
Was he just
Jason's alive.
Was he just wigging?
Yeah.
Or did something really reanimate Jason's body and tell him to come play peekaboo?
I think it was all a dream.
You think it was all a dream? We used to read Word, a magazine. All right, we're now gonna go to some shooting stars aren't meant to be wished upon.
Can I wish upon a star?
He said the airplanes are like night sky,
Like
like
shooting
shooting stars.
I need a nigga
You shouldn't be wishing on them now. Wishing on them now.
I didn't get to say that the first story, Shadows on the Wall, was by Unsettling Stories.
Shadows on the wall.
We are changing tune when reading this next one. This next one comes from Reddit No Sleep, so this is definitely going to be different. Some shooting stars aren't meant to be wished upon.
Shout out No Sleep.
Yeah, dude.
There it was. A fragment of the universe, hurtling through the cosmos. And there I was, gazing up from the comfort of a farmhouse rooftop, built by my father's hand smack dab in the middle of nowhere. In all of the years we lived out there on this countryside, not a damned thing remarkable ever happened. This meteor shower was the highlight of my entire life. And that's why, with a bit of wonder glazed over my eyes, I wished on that one shooting star, brighter than the rest. I wished for some excitement. Almost as if in answer to my plea, the meteor took a U-turn and fell from the skyline like a falcon diving for its prey. I watched, astonished, as it passed overhead and crashed into the wooded area behind my dad's property. Surprisingly, there was no sound, no explosion. Just the rustling of tree leaves as it plummeted through the forest's canopy. To make matters more peculiar, I swear I saw a red glow emanating from the crash site, however faint. After the initial shock wore off, I climbed down from the roof and raced towards the woods as fast as my scrawny little legs would allow. I had a rough idea of where the thing landed, so I darted in that direction, hoping I could take home a chunk of space rock as a souvenir to show my father.
Clefairy!
Clefairy!
Father, look at them!
If I was lucky, it would be a treasure thrilling enough to keep him from getting mad that I went off into the woods by my lonesome. I could only hope.
Was this like the story you were telling when you were on the beach? You
Yeah.
wanted to run off into the
I
distance?
did.
There it is.
I actually swam a mile. I swam a mile, and it was I don't want to talk about it. Eventually, I came to a small clearing where the moonlight gently caressed the earth, granting me a somewhat clearer picture of the flora and fauna around me. I noticed many small animals frantically scurrying north for no discernible reason. I surmised the meteor's landing frightened the wildlife nearby, so I decided to head off in the opposite direction.
Bye.
Don't want to go there. Sure enough, though, after maybe 10 more minutes of my impromptu hike through the wilderness, I came upon the source of the mysterious glow I'd seen before. It was no meteor. There, sitting in a small depression in the ground, was a metallic pod of sorts, complete with a blinking beacon protruding from its surface like an antenna.
It's gonna go in your butt.
It's a perfect story for me. The craft itself was spherical and at least twice my height. I'd never
how you
seen
like it.
anything like it. I was utterly dumbfounded.
And horny as
And
hell.
then I ran back, quickly got my Vaseline and went right back. Before I could take a closer look, a hatch opened up from its side.
From my side.
My hatch opened.
From its side. Before I could take a closer look, a hatch opened up from its side, startling me back into the woods. With a racing heart, I scuttled behind the nearest tree. I cautiously positioned my head around the trunk and spied on the object with bated breath. I didn't know what to expect. Was it some sort of top-secret military weapon? Or perhaps a remote-control gadget built by a genius hermit living nearby? Would a little green man step out to greet me, demanding to speak with my leader?
What's your fucking dad?
No matter the outcome, my eyes were glued to that metallic pod for better or for worse. A dark violet ooze spilled from the object.
Oh, it's Mr. Ooze. Reminded me more from Power Rangers.
Ivan Ooze.
Ivan Ooze.
The goo man.
Don't touch my
He's a goo.
This purple goo will take over you.
Yes.
I'm Mr.
I was ready for this dark violet ooze that spilled from the object, forming a large puddle at its base. A slimy substance then scaled the pod, coating the exterior from top to bottom. As the slime moved around the sphere, the light above stopped blinking. All at once, the purple liquid was repelled from the craft and back onto the ground below. There, it began taking more of a humanoid shape. As the ooze changed, so too did its color. It became white and fuzzy, not unlike television static. Appropriately enough, TV and radio dialogue soon filled the forest. The thing was collecting signals from thin air, regurgitating lines from popular programs long since broadcast. At least, that's what it appeared to be doing.
Like Bumblebee.
Because you guys, yeah, it is like Bumblebee, but you know, like, when was it, the 90s? We sent out that satellite with recordings of TV and stuff.
My mouth agape in awe. I began leaning forward without realizing it. The signal ceased abruptly, and I fell, head first, onto a pile of dead branches, creating a loud crunch. From my new vantage point, I watched the white figure turn to my direction, then I heard it speak.
Who's there?
Its voice was shaky and unnatural, a low, monotone growl coupled with a harsh reverb. Scared for my life, I picked myself up and ran back home faster than I've ever run before. I reclaimed my perch on the roof and carefully surveyed the property. Once I was sure I hadn't been followed, I hopped through my bedroom window and climbed into bed, hoping that I dreamt the whole thing up, an adventure concocted by my imagination running wild. I wished it were that simple, but wishful thinking rarely plays out in one's favor. The following day, I came downstairs to the familiar aroma of eggs and bacon. My father always cooked up a hearty breakfast on Sundays. The sight I was greeted with upon entering the dining room, however, was anything but familiar. There, sitting at the table, across from my father, was a man in a clean-cut suit, wearing a bowler hat and a striped tie. We rarely entertained visitors, so I was a little more than perplexed.
Son, this is Mr. Grovewood. His car broke down a couple miles up the road, so he's gonna be staying with us for a few nights, just until he can get things sorted out.
How do you do, sport?
I remained silent, perturbed by the man's presence and still shaken from the previous night.
He's paid us a generous sum to stay here, so you best treat him with respect.
My dad glared at me in a way that effectively relayed his meaning. As such, I complied. I'm well, sir. Thank you for asking. The man smiled, albeit awkwardly, and I ran outside to tend to the farm. I didn't know why, but I'd suddenly lost my appetite. Something just wasn't adding up. How did this stranger find the farm after his car broke down? We were literally surrounded by the forest. Dumb luck, perhaps? Doubtful. I was beginning to feel his appearance the day after was the thing that landed in the woods wasn't a mere coincidence. But this wasn't a theory I had enough nerve to explore. After all, I had already convinced myself that the previous night's events were nothing more than a bad dream. The man would be gone in a few days either way, so I tried not to dwell on it. The next couple of nights were, bizarre. Mr. Grovewood attempted to watch a sitcom with us while eating dinner, but his reactions were less than normal. He seemed confused by the program and would only laugh after he noticed us laughing. And this wasn't just any laughter, mind you. It was a loud guffaw of intensely uncomfortable proportions. I was almost relieved when he got pulled away by a phone call from a business colleague, though.
Business colleague.
I didn't hear a single word exchanged, though. The following night, I walked downstairs to the kitchen for a glass of milk, only to find Mr. Grovewood chowing down on a raw steak from the freezer. I asked him about it, and all he said was,
It's just a little midnight snack. Trust me, a little color does the body good.
Needless to say, I ran back to my room in a hurry without my milk. Last night, however, is when I became truly afraid. Walking past the guest room to the bathroom, I overheard Mr. Grovewood on the phone. This time, he most certainly spoke.
Did you receive the information I transmitted? Yes, this is the language we must use from here on out. We must avoid suspicion and blend in with the rest. It's a lovely place, rich in minerals, water, and life forms. You and the others are going to like it here. So long as you're ready, there's no going back from here. This will be our new home. No need. Why waste the material on transports when I can beam you down instantaneously? I have 2 vessels here, ripe for the taking. They're coming in here, snatching up your body.
Tell me
Taking over you.
that's how
Giving you the
humanity
real life.
started.
Giving you that body snatch.
Yeah, they first
Living
came down here and
real
said,
life.
"Wow, this place is
Maybe
pretty
they're
fucking awesome."
escaping alien prison. Maybe they.
Nah, they're just body snatchers, dude. They're all about that life. They're here to
I think
conquer and
they
take
came here
over.
and said, "Holy shit, this place is fucking dope. Why is everyone so depressed? That this place is amazing."
And then I am going to read. We discovered something in deep space.
The deep cavity.
I don't think you can say that.
It's illegal in 14 states.
14
You can't say
shit.
that.
Is it legal here?
It's the one thing I tell my girlfriend. No butt stuff.
Oh, that isn't that fun. We each read from a different source. This one's from Creepypasta.
Oh, creepypasta.
Creepypasta. A little bit of spooky spaghetti.
It's a spooky spaghetti. The gabagoo. Gabagoo.
Hello, gabagoo.
Gabagoo's meat, though.
You think aliens know what gabagoo is?
100%.
They refer to it.
They actually created it.
Gabagoo.
We discovered something in deep space. 43 years ago, on the
Exactly.
5th of September 1977, a space probe was launched from
My
Earth
ass.
and sent on an endless journey through space. The probe, which was affectionately named Voyager 1, contained a multitude of information regarding humanity, including our language, our art, and in a more metaphorical way, our souls.
Before you go on,
This is what I was talking about.
What do you think,
Send
real
me an
quick,
episode.
if aliens found out right now, if they were to just get a glimpse of life in 2022, what do you think the culture and things that they would see right now
TikTok.
would be?
Shitty, cringy TikTok about stupid fucking people dancing and fucking dabbing. And they would want to blow up the planet immediately, and I can't fucking blame them.
Me neither.
Do you disagree with me?
I just wanted to see.
Either that or like politics. They would pick up on the news and they
Just
would be
look
like,
and see, like, this country.
They'd be like,
has
"Ah, these
people
guys
locked in
talk
the
too much."
basement."
What are these dudes doing down
why are they
there?
arguing with each other about materials? Shouldn't they be working together? They're all the same species.
Yeah,
What a bunch
we
of fucking
literally
idiots.
put everyone here to
Yeah,
work
apparently
together.
this place called Russia is invading the Ukraine.
Rusai.
Russia has finally moved on Ukraine. The people there are rebelling.
Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Today, this little machine is 22 billion kilometers away from Earth, the furthest reach of our species. Though not a manned vessel, it's still part of us. Despite its distance, we're still keeping contact with it, and during its journey spanning almost half a century, it has given us an insight into the mysteries of the universe we thought we could only dream about. My own father spent most of his life on the project, and I have since followed in his footsteps. I dreamed about taking over his work, even as a 12-year-old kid, and eventually these dreams would land me at NASA's doorstep, to be defunded by President Trump. Little did I know that only a few years into my work, the one question that has plagued us since the dawn of mankind would be answered, forever changing the course of human history. Are we alone? I think we're alone now. On the 7th of December 2019, I arrived to the office after having been called in at 4 in the morning. I immediately noticed the panic that had erupted overnight, with my coworkers scurrying around the office, confused, horrified, but seemingly excited about a picture sent from Voyager 1. The monitors that usually displayed little more than numbers and boring graphs now all showed the same singular image, that of a blue planet.
Uranus.
Oh yeah, that is blue. I approached one of the screens, and mine's bloody, and studied the photograph.
Mine too, actually.
In many ways, the planets resembled Earth, with vast blue oceans and split land masses. But none of the continents were recognizable to me, and the clouds hovering above were red, with a vague yellow tint.
That's how you know it's not Earth.
Hey, Dan, what's this? I asked my neighboring coworker.
Because Dan always knows.
At first, he barely noticed my presence too, engrossed in his own work as he stared at the screen with a mixture of terror and anticipation. Hey, what's the picture? I repeated.
Fucking Dan.
It came from Voyager 1, he said, barely a whisper.
Barely a whisper.
Barely a whisper.
Dan's a
Impossible! The last image sent from Voyager 1 had been received in 1990, the famous pale blue dot. An image we'd posted on the wall of our office for inspiration.
Well, that was so
So inspired.
29 years ago.
So
That's great
fucking
math.
inspired right now. Since that fateful day, our engineers turned the camera off to save the probe's memory, assuring we could still receive more valuable data in the future. Don't be stupid, that's impossible, I said. They turned the camera off decades ago. Something turned it back on, he said with a shaky voice. Something. His choice of words confused me. Instead of indicating that a person had done it, he said,
Something.
What do you mean? How is that even possible? I don't know. But the signal that turned it on came from the planet on the picture. It overrode the system, effectively hijacking the probe. I looked back at the picture, noting its bright surface, an impossible image without a nearby star to light it up. But according to all the available data, Voyager 1 should have been several light years away from the nearest star. The signal came from within the Oort cloud, Dan mumbled. The signal came from... Excuse me? I know, it's 300 years ahead of schedule. We rechecked it 5 times. It doesn't make any sense. Before I could ask any further questions, my supervisor called me into the main office. And there he showed me the transmission we'd received from Voyager 1. Apparently it wasn't just the picture, but a sequence of numbers and codes hidden within the radio signal. Do you know what it means? I asked after listening to the mess of sounds about 10 times. Well, that's why we called you in. We were hoping your father left behind any ideas about his work before he passed away. My dad was a magnificent man, brilliant in his own way, but obsessed with finding the possibility of extraterrestrial life.
This the plot to Star Fox 64?
Throughout the family, you look like just your father. You remind me of your father. You're starting to remind me more and more like your father. Throughout the past century, Earth has picked up a multitude of different radio signals, most of them just an after effect from collapsing stars and random background radiation. However, among the mess of noise, several coherent messages have been filtered out from the symphony of the universe. The only problem was that we had no means with which to translate them. My father never could. He could only determine their origin, which fit perfectly with the current location of Voyager 1. And then it dawned on me that the last message coming from Voyager 1 wasn't just another random signal sent from us, from a thus far unknown planet, but a mathematical key that could be used to translate everything we received so far. My theory was, that the species that had hijacked the probe had used it to understand our language, instructions of sorts. It's like the arrival. We spent the next few days deciphering the message, desperately looking for the key. It took a lot of sleepless nights and countless amounts of caffeine, but eventually we found the answer. Without hesitation, we applied the decoder to all previous messages originating from the same region.
No, that's comedy, folks. That's comedy. You don't get that everywhere.
You don't get that anywhere else.
That's comedy.
The first one having arrived in 1968. Aren't these a lot of numbers for people to remember? Without looking at them. Oh, we're about to get to a whole flood of numbers. Though we had what was essentially an alien dictionary, the language they used contained so many foreign concepts, ideas we still don't understand. Yes, that's what foreign concepts mean. But what follows is the basics of what we've deciphered so far. On December 7th, 1968. Is there anyone out there? March 15th, 2003. Help, help, help. October 23rd, 2010. They are here. September 19th, 2011. We did our best. Sorry. Though the direct messages didn't make much sense on their own, the planet had emitted a continuous signal that seemed to contain a very comprehensive history of their world. As far as we could tell, their species first surfaced 10 million years ago, and it reached a level of technology that is so far beyond our own that we can't even begin to understand it. They make no mention of war, but they talk about a defense grid around their system, one that had been ineffective against a threat mentioned on several accounts. The most approximate translation of this threat has been termed the IUDEX. Since the last distress signal in 2011, their planet fell silent. It was a heartbreaking discovery to finally find intelligent life other than our own, only to have it extinguished immediately. The more horrifying fact, however, was that their demise wasn't one of their own making. No, their end had come at the hands of a far superior species, one able to travel through space only to wage war and destruction. Yet, despite their end, a final message was sent through Voyager 1, one that wasn't calling for help or giving us a detailed history or ideas on how to reach them. Instead, they left us with a final warning, a simple message, and a translation key. All they said was, "You're next." I'm gonna go ahead and say my story was the best.
It's pretty solid. Solid.
That's a fun one.
Evil, well,
Well, they weren't evil. They were
evil.
just falling to the evil alien. But
yeah.
we didn't have a ton of.
Thanos is on his way.
We didn't. Yeah, Thanos is coming. He's coming for your butt.
I bet Thanos coming.
We didn't have too many examples of alien in this story. We had what could be concept of a body snatcher taking over a dead body.
Yeah, like they
And then
left
we got,
the mystery up to the listener.
Then we got a second body snatcher who's ready to spread some seed. And then in the last one we got some Genghis Khan fucking Mongolians coming to
Break your
coming ready to fuck up my
wall.
breaking my shitty wall, breaking up my shitty walk.
They broke from my shitty wall.
Damn Mongolians!
How fucking
Mongolians, what are you doing
What are
here?
you doing here? Fucking It's the funniest fucking line. What are you doing here?
But that's aliens for you, right?
Yeah.
It really is.
It really is. Is there any other little anecdotes? Do we all agree that my story was the best story?
I think so far.
Wow, Creepypasta wins on an episode unexpected for a Creepypasta to win on. You know what? I'm going to take that back. Creepypasta, they're good at monsters and stuff. They're good at reading. They're good at stories about creatures. They're the creature feature of online stories. So I'm going to give it to them. But
It ended great.
I'm surprised yours, Spum, Shadows on the Wall wasn't more gross, because Unsettling Stories are usually really gross.
It was kinda
Unsettling
gross.
They
Stories,
gave you
like,
maggots. They give you the crumbly
yeah,
zombie.
but I've read like
alien,
Unsettling
maybe.
Stories where like a guy like comes into a girl's room at night and puts like worms in her eyes. You know,
That's kind
like
of what it was. Kind of gross.
okay. And then Reddit No Sleep, I would say it tread the same place I think a Reddit No Sleep would go. But because it was just about like a little kid getting all ET phone homed, like it just wasn't surprising. Like nothing new happened. It's
No.
telling a story that has existed since the 50s.
Yeah.
Invasion of the Body Snatcher was a black and white movie in the fucking
That was
like,
good though.
60s.
That was a good story.
It was a good story.
No, it's fine.
It was, just,
it was fine. It's just it's not doing anything new.
Yeah.
And that's where I think
Okay,
we
I
discovered something in Deep Space is like the precursor to Independence Day.
Yep.
Right? Because it's like all these little telltale signs that something's coming for us, and then by the time we figure it out, it's way too late.
Yep.
That's fun.
That was fun.
I was
Can
gonna
you
ask
name a
you.
movie that is on the random TV channel more than Independence Day.
I mean, it definitely
TNT.
plays every summer.
It's on TNT, it's on TBS, it's on every channel.
That's fair. I forget what studio that is.
Fox, probably.
Yeah, it's probably Fox. I was gonna ask if you had seen Annihilation.
Yeah.
I've seen The Arrival. I don't think I've seen Annihilation.
Yeah, Arrival is where they're ask it's her.
Is that
Redhead
where all
and Jeremy
the, like,
Renner.
orbs show up? It's like all the I've seen.
And they're
Yeah.
asking questions, and it's all about the fact that they
communication.
can see the future, and humans can't. So the creatures are talking like through time. And Amy Adams is all like, "Oh, they're
Science.
telling me the future and science and stuff."
Yeah. Honestly, I don't remember the ending of that. But I remember Annihilation.
The ending
When
of that is she eventually realizes that by leading her life the way she is about to, which is divorcing her husband and avoiding her daughter and stuff, she can one day meet the right person in the timeline to stop the world from ending. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
She befriends the right person at the right time
Okay.
and helps save the world.
And the aliens lead her.
And the
then
aliens
home.
tell her that, and then they leave. So it's they come to say something, and it takes us 30 years to make it out. Annihilation is the one with Natalie Portman
And there's
manning
an alien.
a team of chicks, and a comet has
think I've
come
seen
down, basically in Boston or Maine. I want to say Maine up north, and it has the radiation coming from the comet is changing the very makeup, the very fabric of reality, and it's growing bigger and bigger every year, and so
It's changing the genetic
it's changing the
components
DNA
of the DNA.
It's changing the DNA of everything that exists within its
plants,
sphere.
animals, humans,
Interesting.
And
air.
over the course of 5 years, it starts to get bigger and bigger, and now it's starting to get to a human populated area. So they
dangerously.
so
spread.
they get everyone out of there, and they send a bunch of
spread 'em.
scientists and soldiers in, and the soldiers go missing immediately. They're just immediately lost, and Oscar Isaac plays the lead soldier, and then months and months and months and months later, he shows back up, but he's acting all fucking weird.
Oh.
His wife is played by Natalie Portman, who, when he dies from the eventual radiation, wants to go figure out what happened to him by going into the zone. So she takes a team of scientists like Tessa Thompson from Thor, and the two of the six of them, the six
Never
scientists.
saw this movie.
It's really fucking good.
But I was gonna say, I remember you talking.
You would
about it, 'cause I
love the
remember actually-
idea of the alien.
I remember
Yeah.
your mom talking about it,
Like
saying
a
that she was
plasma, like a
terrified.
plasma being that floated around, boom, boom, and then could form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of unspeakable. It talks in tones. It goes
Okay,
and
I
it
could see that.
it takes a drop of Natalie Portman's blood so it could take on a human form to communicate with her. But it's just this energy entity that just emanates this power, and it's really
I
fucking
think
cool.
I would like that. Do you believe that alien technology has the power to if they have like an orb, they have the power to show up and like dissipate, but it's still being there.
Well, it determines on if you're looking at it from like a scientific or from like a biological perspective, because the idea would be like, is the orb there? Is it how they get around? Is it like their method of transportation?
Yeah,
Is
like,
it
do you
like a
believe it can-
science that they can
Yes.
control?
That's what I
Or is
would
it
think.
them
Or
turning
they
into
jumping.
Because
Yeah.
that Dr. Stephen Greer said that he's been at his retreats before, and it has a lot to do with like weird meditation that they like ask these orbs to come. So again, it could play with that like brain wanting that to show up. But he said that everyone at the retreat saw this essentially this pyramid-like ship thing show up in the sky, give everyone like a sense of peace, show up and vanish and disappear. So he was saying that he thinks they have the kind of technology that can show up in this reality that we have and then dissipate into another layer of it.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. There've been so many people with so many different recollections of how the technology works, how like a window can almost open out of like nothingness.
Do you think humans would ever be able to get to that technology on this planet?
I don't know.
think-
It defies what we understand of like physical space.
Do you think that, not really alien related, but do you think that there's more realities that exist in our plane than that we see?
Like a multiverse type of thing?
Kind of. But like we see this, but
Or just a
actually this
spectrum.
exists.
Like a spectrum?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard because there's so many energies and like light waves and different, like I said this on the last Alien episode or a recent Alien episode, I want to say. Cat's eyes apparently can see like 9 different types of light.
Oh,
It's like, what does that even fucking mean?
yeah. Is that why they
What
freak
do
out
they-
sometimes when
what do
nothing
they
happens,
s-
but they're like freaking
How does that
out?
mean their eyes work and what is it they're seeing? You know, because a dog's eyes only works like, I think like 1 or 2 ways. Like they have like a small binocular vision and I think they only see black and white. So it's like humans' eyes we see the full color spectrum and we can like somehow narrow our vision. But
I
like
remember you telling me one time that our eyes are like real life binoculars in a way.
it's because of how our heads are shaped. Like I like to think of Rango because he's able to move his 2 cameras in different directions. That's why chameleons are fun. They get like a 360 view.
Huh.
Their eyes are like little
That is
little
wild.
cameras that they can point in different directions.
Alien.
Alien.
Chameleons?
Chameleons are aliens.
Chameleons are
Obviously.
aliens?
Obviously.
Chameleon.
Obviously.
Makes sense.
Chameleon.
Chameleon.
We knew it all along.
Yep, it's in the name.
Conspiracy theory proven. Those fuckers back in the day who named them chameleons were trying to tell us something.
I think it's so funny to think about just how words got formed over periods of time. Like
Aardvark.
chair.
Chair.
Those
I sit on that. It's a chair.
Chair.
It's just it cracks me up.
Chair.
I sit on your head.
Any word.
Chair.
Any word. Just
I
cracks
sit
me
on
up.
this wood chair.
Chair.
It cracks
What
me
are
up.
we breathing now? Air.
And I'm sitting on it. Oh no, I fell. Air.
Or if you even take the A off in Spanish, to
Ear.
go.
Yeah.
You travel
Wait,
through.
we get al
Dropping
baño.
Travel
Spanish
through.
knowledge right
You
now.
travel through air.
Muchos gatos to me pantalones. All right, we're back. We're back.
That's aliens for you. They're all Spanish and they're here to take our jobs.
Germs and different germs.
Fucking Aryans.
Oh fuck.
How the fuck you get here, Aryans?
Mongolians, Aryans, what's the difference?
All right. So obviously Kumm believes in aliens. Kumm thinks aliens are going to come and, you know, show him the way, essentially.
Aliens are the...
I want to know what love is.
They're going to save our world. And if saving our world means destroy everything to save it, then that's what they're going to do.
I
That's
want you
wild.
to show
That's the happening right there,
me.
which isn't about aliens. Spum over here, I'm going to say he believes in aliens in the way he believes in dinosaurs, which is like,
They're here.
we got some type of proof that they maybe
Gators are
existed.
still here.
Yeah.
When there's a gator. No, when there's a swamp, there's a gator.
And I believe
Gators, aliens, pervs.
I believe
Stamp of
in,
approval.
I believe in aliens in the way I believe in the human imagination. I think there's a lot of stuff. Imagination. I think there's a lot of stuff that we can't explain. And I think over time, much like Kumm said earlier, we've kind of exaggerated things through storytelling. And it's hard to tell what was real and what's not. Fact or fiction. And I think aliens exist, but I think our idea of them is probably totally fucking wrong.
That's what I agree with.
Which could be pretty wild.
I don't think it's just these green goblins running around like.
Little fucking goblins.
I'm somewhat of a scientist myself.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, it's like...
You know, Peter.
I don't know what it is.
Out, am I?
The itsy bitsy spider.
Don't tell Harry. Anyway, aliens could literally just be like blue fucking people trying to get us to dance.
They could just be dots.
Eiffel 65. I'm blue. Dabba dabba die.
Wait, that was an alien song?
You never seen that music video?
I've heard this song.
We're watching the music. Okay, guys, we're ending the podcast now so we can watch Eiffel 65.
Not only do I have a blue house, I have a blue,
window.
All the people are blue.
My girlfriend,
Blue.
fucking blue.
My dog,
My balls,
blue.
fucking blue.
My
Because
hand
of my girlfriend.
My girlfriend,
Oh.
she sucks.
Not
hate
her.
No, I wish she did.
Bitch.
And that's why my balls are blue.
I can relate to that.
So can
My
I.
girlfriend would suck. She just wants and wants and wants.
Selfish.
Like your lust for aliens.
Yes, exactly.
So you
Suck
do
my
have
balls,
something.
tear my butthole open.
So you do have
Suck my
something.
jag on.
You do have something in common then.
With a jag on?
I wait till the days end when